Proper story is
The
supposed
game
to
starts
start
with
at
the
the
narration
beginning.
of the story.
Ain't so simple with this one. Now here's a kid whose whole world got all twisted, leaving him stranded on a rock in the sky.
Here, I am able to walk
He
around.
gets up, sets off for the Bastion.
I start by
where
walking
everyone
through the
agreed to
doorway,
go in
then
case of
platforms start
trouble.
to appear. The platforms are appearing
Ground
fast enough for
forms
me to
up under
keep
his
going
feet
without
as it pointing the
stopping.
way. He don't stop to wonder why. Finds his
I came here
lifelong
to pick up a
friend
hammer.
just lying in the road. Well, it's a
Then I get a
touching
pop-up showing how I can use it. There's a bit of player guidance where the terrain that is blocking my path glows red when I go near it.
Years of work.
Then I get another
done in
pop-up
an
explaining how to dodge.
instant. In the calamity.
This movement also allows me to travel faster.
That a survivor.
Here there is Seeker's movement in Pendus where first there's a rock in our way, then it passes the enemy and back to the player. This is our first enemy encounter. Upon killing it, we get met with a reward of a currency that pops up top right. While destroying the objects nearby, I also learned that we can get currency from that. I continue moving and find another item. Again, it shows me how to use it. I take my time learning how it works. I learned that I can now move around while using it unlike the hammer. I continue to the next area here, and here we find a fountain. Upon interacting with the fountain, I get a pop-up showing how to use the health potion. I use it and it heals me fully and pops up how many I have left. Here I look around, looking for what to do and accidentally fell off the worlds. Now I've learned that falling off respawns me nearby. As I respawn, a bunch of enemies spawns nearby. These were very one-shot killable enemies. I see this little area off to the side that contains an item that relates to the story.
Kid finds a memento from a
I
girl.
go back near the building,
Always use a
and
fancy
this time there's a player guidance with the blue
It's a
arrow pointing
wonder
to the
the
saloon.
old saloon's still standing.
So far, we can see that the art style is very vibrant and colorful. The art is
He sets
hand-painted in
foot
fact, and the
inside
music
one
is
of
quite
Sercan's
soothing and
famous
beautiful.
watering holes.
The camera is also an
Inside,
isometric
so
camera
Robin
in this
and
2D
bartender,
world.
The calamity
Here in
god
the saloon, I look around and a new item
then kid
appears.
finds his trusty shield.
Another pop-up appears showing how to use the shield that I just got.
Handle on it. The security takes it for a petty thief.
An enemy appears which I'm pretty sure is to practice using the shield on, but I
Special
kinda killed it
delivery.
right away.
Gas fellas.
Then these boxes fall from the sky and I go to break them. And suddenly they start floating. The last box breaks open containing an enemy. I learned that these boxes contain enemies and that I need to break them before it opens. I do my best, but too many appear. Here the game is challenging the player with all the items we've gathered so far. You're using the dodge to dive away from attacks, melee attacks near the enemy, and range attacks when I dive away. Upon killing all the enemy, another pop-up showing how to teach me how to lock onto targets. Then more enemies appear, but these are the ones that are one-shotable. Spawning a bunch of one-shotable enemies allow me to practice the lock-on mechanics. You can see that the lock-on changes once the enemy is killed in a situation with many low health enemies. It's fun to play with
Kid sees
it.
the way to the Bastion.
Upon killing the rest of the enemies, I move on to the window.
He gets a good look at things on his way down.
As we enter the Dwarf District,
lands
we
on
can see
top
that
of
it
a
is raining from the
breaker's
particles
bow,
in the game.
and it ain't
We
broken.
fall right on top of a chest that breaks open, revealing a new weapon.
Kid spies a good perch.
It's another ranged weapon, which is strange because we already have a ranged weapon.
Knows he should draw the string.
The narrator tells me to draw the strings all the way back, which usually means to charge the bow in games so it does more damage. Using the lock-on feature in the bow is easy to one-shot these turrets. As I move along, turrets start to appear. Here I finally learned that using the
Good news is
shields,
the emergency defenses still work.
that I can
Bad news is
deflect
the aiming for the kid.
projectiles.
Right back at you. Wasn't long before the kid could loose an arrow.
Here I pick up another item, but this time it's a skill for my hammer. Upon picking up this new skill, a bunch of enemies spawn to practice this skill on. I continue on, moving on, killing more turrets that open up to the next area.
He finds the distillery right next to the
Here
arsenal.
there's a distillery where we can
Tough
equip
lifetime.
items.
One
As
sip
you can
of the
see,
spirits in
you
that
unlock more
distillery,
every level.
and the kid'll feel
And
like
there's
a
an-
new man.
And then there
The arsenal
is...
where a kid can pick the best tools for the job.
The arsenal, where you can select which melee weapon, ranged weapon, and skills you want to use on your journey. Since I don't have much variety, I leave. I continue moving along, fighting more enemies.
Some of them squirts birthing like crazy in a couple of corn bins.
I get rid of quickly before it spawns more.
Bad time to run out of black time.
Here we encounter an enemy that spawns more enemies. I move on, and then there's a switch right here after the enemy. The player guidance on the blue arrow, and then the platform starts moving.
The Bastion's real close now.
Along the way, there are turrets that shoot at you, which I take down with a bow. At the third turret, we counter a turret that fires 3 projectiles. After killing all this enemy, I get to this large area where I believe the showdown happens.
Kid takes a chunk of alloy. Smell of barley and spoiled blueberries fills the air.
I look at my backpack to see what I got.
Scumbag.
Enemies after enemies begin spawning all over the area as the music gets intense. We encounter new enemies like this one that throws a projectile that sticks around in the ground. We can also see that the health of the enemy is the size of it as it shrinks smaller when it takes damage. There is also that enemy that spawns more enemies. And lastly, there is the big boss that actually destroys me. Whenever this boss attacks, part of the map gets broken and leaves holes, which you can fall off of. This boss, but it was actually very challenging, in my opinion. As for the first boss, at least. My health regens fully, and a bunch of fat loot drops all over this area.
He finds the core to the Dwarf District. He steals the city's heart.
I continue moving along this colorful pathway until I get to this doorway. As I open the door, the environment changes, the colors change, and the music gets more intense, and things are falling from the sky everywhere. Too many enemies spawn, which makes me lose control of my character and fall off the worlds.
Down toward the Bastion. Now the kid sees something stranger still.
Unlike last time where I resurrected in the same area, this time I responded to Bastion.
Did anybody else survive?
I walk along the path that seemed abandoned.
Sure enough, he finds another.
And here we meet the NPC,
me.
which happens to be the narrator.
We talk for a spell.
This place is a great definition of arrivals. A large space that is unique and it has been building up to this moment.
The Bastion comes alive.
There are also no enemies, so it is a safe area.
Stronger.
Here we can unlock new buildings that we can use to make ourselves stronger and continue on in the story. The goal is to bring back all the survivors back to the Bastion. Overall, I believe the game was very linear.
There's a bit of the Bastion's power in that.
I loved the fluid gameplay and all the tips for first timers to learn how to play. My favorite part of the game is definitely the art style, as it looks so good for a game that is 10 years old. I highly recommend trying this game out, and I will for sure to finish the game.
I tried to let the kid down gently. This is the Bastion, alright. Except no one else showed up.